Cool, man. No, I'm pumped to be here, and I appreciate you inviting me on.
Yeah, I appreciate having you. It's when I was at Pace's mastermind maybe about 2 months back, you popped
Yeah.
in. Totally wasn't expecting you. It was really interesting. I think you just happened to be in town. You jumped in, you came up to the front and you spoke, and you inspired a really cool thing that I'm now doing with my mom, where I'm interviewing her,
Yeah.
because you just put things into perspective on why we even became entrepreneurs.
Mm.
So for that, I got to say thank you. And, at that moment, I said, I need to have you come on to the podcast, because it's what I got from you was so valuable
Mm.
that I want to share it with the audience.
Dude, I appreciate it, man. It's funny how things happen, right? Because I wasn't planning on being there that day. I was in town for our company retreat, our Carrot company retreat, and we have about 60 employees, and people came from all around the country to be there. And myself and my videographer, we were traveling back. So I was meeting with Brent Daniels earlier that day and a bunch of people. I texted Pace and I'm like, dude, are you around? He goes, I got my mastermind going on. And he goes, stop by. I go, okay, cool. I don't have much time, but I'll stop by. We had our bags with us on the way to the airport and stuff. And dude, the cool thing, this is one of the things, like, Pace is such a giver, is, I go there and he gave up one of their speaking slots in front of your mastermind to me. I didn't ask for it, but he saw, like, dude, I want to add value to that room. And I was so grateful for being able to do that. I had no warning. He's like, dude, do you want to get up and talk about something? And I said, sure. When? He goes, like, how about 10 minutes from now? Okay, dude, I'll talk about the fundamentals as much as I can get through in 20 minutes on how I think people should be thinking differently to make sure that we're running our businesses the right way, so the business doesn't run us. So the business drives our passions. So the business doesn't get built in a way where we end up despising the thing that we built, that we hoped would give us freedom, and actually ended up trapping us, because so many of us do that. So I'm pumped to dig in here and share anywhere I can.
Yeah, so I'm excited to dig into that. So before we dig into that, I want to, for the people who are listening to this, who have never heard of you, who've never heard of Carrot, and maybe they're not investing in real estate. A lot of my people and listeners are real estate investors, but some aren't. Can you give them a little bit of a background on ultimately how you started to step into this world of entrepreneurship, and how you started to run this very now successful company?
Dude, I'll give the shortest version I can. So I got in entrepreneurship, honestly, kind of by happenstance. I bought my first property when I was in college, at 21 years old in college, had no money, no credit, didn't know anything about real estate. And I remember my dad had bought this Carlton Sheets course, like from the infomercial, literally, the $500, the no money down course. And this would have been back in 2004. And he had it sitting there, and I was starting to kind of show some interest that I didn't want to go get a job after college. I had no clue what I wanted to do, but I was going to college in one of those throwaway degrees. It was entrepreneurship and marketing. It's like, what do you can do with that? So he had the course, and he said, hey, you know what? I'll make a deal with you. You can have this course and not have to pay me for the course if you buy a deal from using the concepts in this within the next year. But if you accept this offer and you don't buy a property using the concepts in this within a year, you've got to pay me $500. And so I go, okay, game on, let's make it happen. So it took me about 8 months of a lot of second guessing myself, a lot of limiting beliefs, a lot of everything. I'm too young. I don't have any money. I don't know how to buy properties. How am I ever going to figure out how to run a 4-unit building? I don't have any credit, like every excuse, right? And about 8 months in, I ended up acquiring a 4-unit property with none of my own money. And I still own that property today. On Instagram yesterday, I actually posted a little video of an email I got from my property manager. He runs our construction over there as well in the properties. And we just renovated some of the units, added about $50,000 in equity to the properties with that one renovation. Only cost $7,000. And so I still have that one today. But after that, Marlon, it just really turned into how can I now really build businesses and have freedom, right? Not have to be tied down by what someone else's vision is. But if I have a vision, I can go create something that fulfills that vision. But how do I do it in a way and really figure out how to build business? And dude, I've been through probably 7 businesses now. About 3 have completely failed miserably. So if any of you guys and gals are on that brink, or you've had a business fail, it's like they say, it's oftentimes your best learning is from your failures, not your wins. And so And I've had 2 businesses that have done insanely well in the 8-figure range. And like I said, 3 have failed and 1 or 2 have just kind of been sitting there that are just hanging out.
See, I love that. And by the way, you just gave me a great idea. My brother's going to hate me because I'm coming back to him this week and I'm telling him I
Yeah.
give him access to some course material, and I'm going to give him the same challenge your dad gave you, where it's like, hey, if you don't do anything in a year, you're coming back with a paycheck for me.
Dude, the challenges work, man. Like here's the crazy thing. Do you mind if I tell you another like 1-minute story on challenges and how effective they are?
Absolutely.
So fast forward through all that, you know, in what Carrot today, we have about 8,000 customers. If people were to Google like sell my house fast, insert any city or state in the country, or any phrase a motivated house seller would type, or a land seller, or a mobile home seller, or even cash buyers, you're probably going to find a Carrot site controlling Google, 3 to 8 Carrot sites controlling page 1 in Google. 90,000 leads a month come through our system. Hundreds of millions of dollars in deals are initiated through our system a year, every single year with our clients. Biggest names, Brent Daniels, Pace, they're customers of ours. So anyway, my brother, when we had started Carrot in 2014, my younger brother started help me with support. So I was the support guy for the first about a year. I hired my younger brother, and he was the same kind of mindset where like he wanted to try to figure business out, but he was a lot more risk averse than I was. And so he started to do support with me, but I could see that his passion was a side project he had. And he's always been an athlete, played D1 baseball. And he's always like connected with people really well. He lived in Phoenix for a few years in Scottsdale, and he was deeply tied into the athlete community there. And so he had this company called Athletes Brand, and they made t-shirts, and they'd partner with Major League Baseball players or pro soccer players or a couple football players, a couple NBA guys. They'd make a cool design, and then they would sell that shirt, and then they would give the half the profits to the charity of the choice of that athlete. And it was really cool, but it wasn't a scalable business. And so he was starting it, and he was working with me. And Marlon, what was happening was I could see that he was not stepping into really growing that business and taking the leap because he had a paycheck from me. And I started to talk to him like, dude, are you passionate about this? He goes, no, I like the work, but I don't want to do this forever, support for Carrot. And I said, okay, well, what do you want to do? Well, I've got this thing over here and I want to make it happen. And I told him, I said, Kyle, I said, you're never going to make that business work until you get the crutch out from underneath you of the paycheck that you're working with me. And the challenge I gave him, this would have been in December. And in December, I said, I love you, and I'm doing this because I love you. You no longer have a job with me April 1st. And I'm doing it because I love you. So I want to set you free to go out there and force yourself to pay your bills with your business. Because until he had that pressure where he had to pay his bills with the business, he wasn't going to make it happen. Here's the crazy thing, dude. Then I'll wrap this story. And this is how, like, when you put the intention out to the world, it truly does oftentimes conspire to help you be successful. We did that. He put the intention out to the world that he was going to make it work. I asked him, how much money do you need by April 1st to make this business work? He gave me an amount. I think it was like 50 grand to be able to do this and do that and do this and do that. Probably didn't need that much, but that's what he thought he needed. Okay. And like the website and the marketing and whatever, all this stuff. And I said, okay, 50 grand. I said, you've got to figure out a plan then to get 50 grand by April 1st, apparently, or you've got to figure out a plan to make it happen for less than that. A week later, he gets an email. It goes into his spam. And this is when he's living down in Phoenix. Goes into spam. He never checks his spam. He calls me up. He's like, Trevor, he goes, I got an email from GoDaddy, and they're making a Super Bowl commercial. And they said they're like in the finalists. And somehow my name was recommended from an employee at GoDaddy to go be a finalist for the Super Bowl commercial. I'm like, is it real? He goes, I think so. He talks with the casting people. They hop on with him. He's interviewed. He makes it in the finals. Everyone else had to go through this whole system. They literally plunked him right in the finals of this. Okay. He hits me up and he goes, hey, so I'm in the finals of this thing. I'm thinking it's a joke still. He goes, they're flying me out to North Carolina to film the commercial, and they gave me a ticket. You want to come with me? This is a week and a half after I gave him that deadline. Okay. We hop on an airplane. This is early January. We're in North Carolina, in Charlotte. We're right by the Speedway, and we're thinking GoDaddy, racetrack, Danica Patrick's going to be here, right? And so literally we filmed a GoDaddy commercial with Danica Patrick. My brother had to pitch his business to her while racing in a race car where she's driving the car. And he didn't win it, but he ended up getting almost $50,000 in sales from the promotion of that almost on April 1st. Like insane. You can't make that stuff up, dude. This is crazy.
But you know what? It makes perfect sense to me. In fact, when I came out here to Arizona, a huge part that was driving that was my desire to grow. And I knew
Yep.
that back home I was too comfortable. And there
Yep.
had to be a release from that safety net of,
Yep.
hey, just figure things out. And lo and behold, things
Mhm.
started working. Business started gaining more traction.
Yep.
Connections started coming out of nowhere. So I'm a huge, huge believer. And I think it's important for people to hear these kinds of stories because they think that it's always this perfect plan before they initiate. And
Yep.
what I find most often, and you correct me if I'm wrong, it's about clearly defining what the target is,
Yep.
really just getting crystal clear. And this is what I'm going to do, not necessarily understanding the exact how it's going
Yeah.
to happen, but just knowing what it is you want to create
Yep.
and then trusting that if you start moving in that direction, the rest will unveil itself.
Dude, that's 100% it. So if we were to kind of talk about vision and where everyone might be in this call, and this is a little bit what I talked about at Paces. I didn't have time to get into this, but I've got the entrepreneur freedom formula, right?
Yeah.
And over the years, I created that for myself, and I can bring it up on the screen here in a minute so people can see it visually. So over the years, as I've run these businesses and had some successes and failures, and I had the vision, and I started 10 years ago, I started writing down what I call my life vision story. I've got it with me in my bag over there. It's just in this little orange notebook. And it's still the same notebook from 10 years ago. I just go refresh it every year. Right. And so what I do here, Marlon, is I like to look out 20 years, 10 years, and then 5.
Mhm.
And here's why. So if you're struggling right now, guys and gals, and you're trying to start a company, or you're in the middle of it, or you're 3 years into your business, or you're thinking about starting a company, or maybe it's not even a company, you're thinking about doing something that's just a big goal for you. It could be this massive fitness goal or something else. We have to have a vision that takes us out so far that we're required to remove the limiting beliefs, like you were saying, on how we're going to get to that. So I started making my visions like 5 years out. And the problem with that is that's so close that all the limiting beliefs that you're currently living with in your life are still fully embedded into that 5-year you. You're going, yeah, but this and but this and but this and but this. How am I going to change all that in 5 years? You'll lower your barrier. You'll restrict the vision that you create. So then I do 20 years out, because 20 years out, so I've just turned 40 this year. When I refresh my 20-year vision, that was me at 60 years old. And I'll literally write it at the top of that page. I'll write the years is, what is it? 2043. I'm 60 years old and blah. And I just start to literally write it in story format the second I wake up on that day to the second I go to bed. And I call it my ideal average day. If I had to, like, if you're forced to wake up to this day every day, like this schedule, basically different interactions, right? But this schedule, and those types of experiences, would I be insanely pumped and fulfilled that this is how my day would be? And you write it from like the second you wake up, I'm in a room. What does a room look like? Right? Is there a window? What's outside of that window? Who's next to you? What are the first conversations you have? And I'll just do it in vivid detail. I wake up and I'm in, bedroom with high vaulted ceilings with a giant window to my right overlooking a body of water. And I even say, like, the view on my deck with the pool, it's inspiring. It's got lush garden greens all around it, and the sun, literally the sunrise comes up in my eyes. I wrote this before we lived in our current house. And the house we moved into in 2016, it wasn't until we renovated the house, and we did this. I did not plan this. Our designer came in and said, in your bedroom, you have a small window there. I think we should bust this out and make a 12-foot sliding glass door. I'm like, that sounds like a good idea. And so they did it. It was probably a week after that door was done and the renovation of our bedroom was done. I'm laying there. I wake up, sunrise coming up over the river that we bought the house on with the pool. I'd lived in the house for 2 years before that happened. And it didn't hit me until that moment. I'm like, dude, this is exactly what I wrote 10 years ago. Exactly. And so get crazy specific on that, to the point to where you read that back to yourself and you almost get emotional. You're like, dude, if that's my life, that's amazing. Like, this is the most exciting story I've read all year. And then you take it and do the same thing 10 years out. You go, okay, if that's going to be my life in 20 years, and also put in there like everything. You can put numbers in there if you want to, but it's more about like the experience you're going to have and the person you're going to become, right? If you're going to work, what time are you going to go to work? Do you drive to work? Do you walk to work? What do you drive? Is it a walk to your house? What does the office look like? When you're doing work, what type of work are you doing? Who are you doing work with? Do you have lunch? Who do you have lunch with? Do you work out? Who do you work out with? When do you work out? What do you do? Like all that, right? You're crafting the person that you're going to become. And then you walk it back in 10 and say, okay, in 2032, 2033, I'm going to be 50 years old. I'll even put where I think my kids are going to be at that time, what age they're going to be. And then you walk it back to the 5. And then here's where I'm going to go. I'll toss it back to you. Once you hit the 5 now, you're bringing it closer. And you say, okay, let me write my 5-year now. And you do the same thing, your ideal average day. Okay, I wake up and I say, where am I waking up in 5 years? If it's 5 years from now, and here's my 10-year life, and it's this house or this whatever it is, and this is my work, and this is the type of work I want to do, what must be true in 5 years to make it so I can achieve that 10? Okay, once you nail the 5, now then we look at our business. And we say, if that's my 5, what must my business look like in order to reach that? And what must I do this year in order to build the business that will accomplish that life in 5 years? And that'll help you to make those decisions very easily. A lot of people skip the whole vision part. That's the thing that drives you through the hard times. Okay. When people quit 6 months in, 3 months in, it's because they're looking at trying to solve a problem now, this week, this quarter, this year of income or whatever. They're not looking 20 years, 10 years, 5 years out and saying, this is the life. I'm going to be patient till I get there. And it's okay if I don't get there in 6 months. It's okay if I don't get there in a year, as long as I'm making progress on it. You've got to have the vision. Otherwise you'll quit too easy.
See, Trevor, I absolutely love that. And I'm smiling the whole time because it gives light to that saying, without vision, the people will perish.
Dude,
and
yeah.
It's funny because even like, as you described your house, I'm thinking about the house that I live in here and that I own now. And I would always write down that I'm going to have a home. It's going to have a pool. It's going to have high ceilings, just because I like high ceilings. And this is like, one day I was laying here and I was like, wait a second.
I got $1 billion mindset.